when I open the score, there are a number of places that I go first,
Okay.
especially if they've done the adjust income. If they've done the adjust income, the first place I go is it just you or are there other owners?
Okay.
If there are other owners, this email is a little different because it then goes into the fact that if they are the ones who filled out the questionnaire, they are probably the operational person in that ownership group.
Okay.
So then I go into more of how do we get the other people engaged in that, how I don't want them to have to bring the information that I'm giving them to the other people. Stuff is inevitably going to get lost in translation and things like that. So it goes in a slightly different direction if there's multiple owners. But for this case, this is the second place that I go to, which is the NAICS code. And I always check the NAICS code to see if it fits what I think it should be. And I even go one step further. I have the website bailout tracker, and I see the NAICS code that they submitted when they got their PPP loan to see if they match.
Wow.
So in this case, I saw this client, the NAICS code was wildly different than what I know a brewery's NAICS code is supposed to be. So then I put it up and I said, it's different than what I would expect. Is there a story behind it? Is it because you have a very diversified product line and things like that? So then this led into a completely different conversation because they do have a restaurant that does great business, and he keeps asking me, do you want to buy a restaurant? That's another story because they want to spin it off and do that.
But it's cool because you've got the info, but you're like dialing right into to gain that trust.
Yeah, I have a potential engagement with an interior designer. In her value builder questionnaire, she mentioned that she has recurring revenue, and my follow-up email, instead of this, said, I noticed that you have recurring revenue as an interior designer. I have never seen that. Is there a story? What is it that you do that creates recurring revenue? Yeah. And then in our follow-up conversation, it turns out it was reoccurring revenue, not recurring revenue. But just being able to go into the report and like parse out the information and see what might be relevant and what might trigger good questions is, I think, one of the most interesting things. When I started in this business, there was this senior guy who told me that, and it turns out at the time I was blown away because I thought he was brilliant. Everybody gets their stuff from somebody else, but he told me that my income will be in direct correlation with the quality of the questions that I'm able to ask. And that, the report, the Value Builder report, if you go into it, it is a great way to find very insightful questions that are going to cause your prospect to sit back and say, huh, I've never thought of it that way, or huh, nobody's really ever asked me that. And that's where you want to get to.
Yeah, that's a cool response. I love that. All right, okay, so they get their score, you sit down, and then what's the next part of this? You've got a bunch of people taking their scores. How are you deciding who to engage with and who not to engage with?
Okay, so in that sense, I'm a little old school. If you have taken the time to do your score, I have set up my settings to require a phone number if you're doing your score. So if you're doing your score, I have your phone number. Once you've done your score, I send that follow-up email. You'll see that at the bottom, it says I have, and then the phone number in my records, right?
Yeah, right here, yeah.
So, yeah. So that person is getting a phone call. I may never speak to them because they may never pick up, but everybody who has filled out a questionnaire is getting a phone call. My next list is my incomplete questionnaires list. Those people that started the questionnaire but didn't finish it, those people will also get a phone call. And then I have the last list that I have, which is the biggest one, is I sort them out by activity points. And the way I do it is that I sort out people with 100 or more activity points that do not currently have an engagement. And I think there's a last criteria. I don't remember which one it is.
I think it's whether their VB score is empty, if they haven't done their score, or if they're incomplete.
Yes, you have not done your score, you have 100 or more activity points, and you do not have an engagement. Yes, those are the three. And then so that list gets an invitation to a deep dive into the value builder system, which is one of the presentations on the portal where I go into all the questions in the questionnaire, what they mean, and what impact they have on your business in general. And the call to action at the end of this presentation is to go do the questionnaire.
So it sounds, and you're using like the filters and all this kind of stuff that we just, in the last couple of months have released into Value Builder, where we've got the segmentation, we've got the ability for you to build filters and do lists and all that kind of stuff, which is really cool. So you're using the functionality right in the system. Once you get them to complete your score, once you get them to complete their score, we talked about this at the beginning, all the products that you have or all the services that you offer, like how does this, and I've got it on the next slide, how are you tying the questions in the questionnaire to all the different products that you effectively have? Are you sitting there and are you sitting there looking at specific questions? And you alluded to this a little bit when you said you look for a business owner, you look at the NAICS code, but like, what level of detail are you going to really dissect what you're going to offer them?
So what I offer them is, and I alluded to this a little bit at the beginning, what I offer them is a bit of a mix between what they want and what they need. If, for example, a company has multiple owners, I kind of don't care what you want to start with, but we are starting with a buy-sell agreement.
Okay.
That's what we're starting with. So this is one case where this is non-negotiable because it's just that important. Otherwise, it's like I said, a little bit of a mix between the two. I will tell you that almost always it starts with either valuation or growth. And I have, for myself, the goal is to acquiesce to what the client wants to start with, but make it clear that if we want to start here, the real starting point is usually 2 or 3 steps back, and then take them forward exactly where they would want to start. These products are more a logical extension of the conversation as opposed to a pitch where it's okay, I'm going to sit down with this client and I am going to pitch them a valuation.